fire, and there was all these crazy things. And the guy who's actually behind WWE is called Vince McMahon, and there's Sean McMahon.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the James Rambling Show, coming at you live on Friday night. Tonight's your host, James Bay.
Hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Show. I reviewed Thor Love and Thunder yesterday. So far it's not really gotten many views, but I gave my thoughts on that, and I must say I was actually very mixed on that movie. Like, there was points where I was like, yeah, this movie's really good, and at other points the movie was very bad because you know, I don't know, the comedy wasn't working and that kind of thing, and I'll put the link to that in the description and stuff like that. But the episode we're talking about tonight, we're talking about, or I'm talking about, my WWE phase. I mentioned this on the podcast probably like a long time ago, but there was a point in my life where I actually was very, very into WWE. So yeah, so I'm just gonna let you know how it started, how it ended, and why. I'm trying to remember why I got into it as well. So when it started was probably like 2018 or 2017, and for about a year or two I was just very into this and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and then I was just doing all these things, and that's pretty much it, because this is one of these phases that could have actually been longer, but they didn't end up being longer. So WWE, for those who don't know, is like wrestling, and like wrestling people and entertaining and all that, and throwing chairs at people, and you've seen all those clips of people throwing chairs at other people and that kind of thing. And I actually remember going up to one of my teachers from my old school, right, and talking to him about WWE like non-stop, and when he found out that I just don't like WWE anymore, he was kind of mad, and he was like, oh James, why aren't you WWE anymore? So, and he still liked me, but beside that, after that, but yeah, I did actually talk to somebody I know about WWE. That was a thing I did. So, and WWE, man, like, I remember this thing I had with WWE, right? I was just like, it got to a point where I thought WWE was a real thing. So, like, basically, I thought all of this stuff they're doing in these acts, right? Thought all of this was real, and so I just came to the point where I got so obsessed with this that I thought it was real, and I don't know how I thought that, because this is obviously not real. It's scripted. It's not a real act people do. Like, you don't just go out there and act like it's normal to throw a chair at somebody or to tackle somebody like that, because obviously, because the entrances they do as well are definitely like chosen, and they're supposed to be like acts of performance, and this is just like performing arts and stuff like that. So saying it's real isn't necessarily true, because there's a lot of things that play into it, and as to why it's not a real sort of thing. So yeah, that's one thing, and I remember actually like doing a lot of I remember actually being like so obsessed with WWE, right, that I reenacted some of this stuff. Like, I remember used to jump on my bed and all of that and do these WWE acts, and it was quite crazy because I was just jumping on my bed and I was doing all this stuff. And mind you, I was 12 years old or something like that. So what can you expect, right? When you're 12 years old, you do a lot of weird things, and in your life you end up doing some immature things, you know. So yeah, that's sort of what I lead into with this one here. So, and also the WWE games were a big thing of this, and there was also investing in WWE characters and stuff like that. So like, I would just basically, spend so much money on these WWE items and stuff like that, and then for a long time, I just kept on doing this, and I just kept buying WWE figures, buying WWE figures, buying them, 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 buying them. I just kept buying them and 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 buying them. So yeah, I just kept buying them, and I've also bought this WWE t-shirt, this Hulk Hogan t-shirt, and I had another t-shirt as well. I bought a lot of things in this phase, and usually when I'm really obsessed with something, I do actually end up buying a lot of things with it. So it led to that point where I was just buying so much stuff, right, where I got so obsessed that I bought a lot of things, and that kind of thing happened. I had a WWE poster of John Cena and The Undertaker and all of that, and there was actually a point, right, where I used WWE Network, if I mentioned that or not, I used WWE Network, right, but it got to a point where I actually only watched, I only watched the mainstream sort of WWE stuff, so SmackDown, Raw, NXT, and stuff like that. I never watched any old school stuff, so there's this one person that came over to New Zealand, and he was telling me, oh, you could watch the old school stuff, because I was really into that, and they told me about that. So I did that, and I got really into that as well. So I got into the old school stuff like Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, Kane, The Rock, and stuff like that, and John Cena, You Can't See Me, and that type of thing. I got really into that stuff. And you can expect it, right? Because I'm a boy, and it'd be like, yeah, a boy would really like WWE. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure a lot of girls like it as well, because there is a lot of girl wrestlers. Sasha Banks. I'm trying to remember these because it's been a long time since I've been into WWE. So Sasha Banks. Oh man, I'm sorry, I just can't remember. But there's a lot of female WWE stars, and these you'd think, oh, you know how you have in boxing, right, where you can only have mostly a man boxing a man, or a female boxing a female, right? The WWE is that crazy, right, with all this chair smashing and stuff like that women and men can fight each other, which is absolutely insane, right? Because you know how men are stronger than women and that type of thing. So it plays into how you can't really have men and women fighting each other. But yeah, that sort of thing happened, and they also have tag team matches as well, where you have two people versus two other people, and then they get tagged in whenever it's their turn, or whenever they want to jump in and do stuff in tag team. There's a lot of genres in WWE as well. It's like tag team, 1v1, the table matches, the cage matches, which are absolutely insane. That takes things to the next level, man, and honestly makes WWE probably one of the most NSFW sports of all time, because you've got fire, and there was all these crazy things, and the guy who's actually behind WWE is called Vince McMahon, and there's Sean McMahon as well, and he's got this money, and they had that intro for a long time, and he's like, that's like the guys behind WWE. There's Roman Reigns. There's a lot of WWE stars, as you can tell, because there's so many things they do with this, right? So many things they do that they have so many characters in this, because WWE is kind of like a movie brought to life in a way, because it's like a narrative, right? You're building a narrative, you're building this story, and then you're creating it with all these matches and this lore, and you're making all these backstories and how these people came to be and that type of thing. But it's all just a fictional thing, but it feels real because of the acts they do, right? The acts they do are actually real, right? The whole proposition, the whole you know, oh, this guy's so bad, I'm going to take him out tonight with that chair and that backstage stuff and that type of thing. That is all for show, but when they're actually using the ladders and everything, that's when when it's actually real. Everything else is completely just and utterly not real at all. So yeah, there's that. And there is a lot of things to talk about with WWE, especially this genre of entertainment, if you want to call it that, has been around for a very long time. I want to say this has been around since the 60s, and I never actually watched any WWE from the 60s. I mostly watched stuff, as I said, most of the mainstream stuff, so that's like the stuff like that. And I did actually go back in my WWE phase, right? I went to the earlier WrestleManias, because I remember when I watched it. I think I only got up to WrestleMania 34 or 33, and that's when I gave up with WWE. But I remember going back and watching all those WWE things, and also, right, and also, almost forgot to mention this, right. When I used to when I had when I was on this trampoline, right, I remember doing WWE moves on my cousin, and that was kind of crazy because my cousin's gonna get injured, of course, and I was just so obsessed with it that I did say that I did that whole thing with my bed and everything. I also did this with the trampoline. I would jump on my trampoline for a very, very, very long time, and so I would just try and do these WWE moves on it, and then after a while, I was like, I realized that I was gonna cause damage to my cousin, so I stopped doing it, and yeah, I just stopped doing that and that kind of thing. So there's all of that, and of course, right, of course, I watched tons of videos on WWE. I watched WWE Channel. I watched YouTube channels dedicated to this as well. I went all in this rabbit hole, right? This rabbit hole of entertainment. I just watched a lot of videos about WWE. I can't remember one of the creators, but I remember there was this really like middle-aged guy that was into WWE, and he had his own warehouse and everything, and the dude made all these adulty jokes and stuff like that, and I still watched it, right, because I remember this one time, right, where there was this guy on YouTube. Correct me if I'm wrong, whatever. He said something about how this wrestling figure's like, oh, she's got abortion or something, or she had an abortion or something like that. That was crazy, and I remember when my dad told me to stop watching this guy because he was quite kind of like, why should I be watching this stuff, right? And I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy was weird, right? This wrestling channel, this old man, and honestly, dude, I really don't care that old people are into video games, movies, or even wrestling, right? I don't care because sometimes, right, I still watch Nerd Erotic, who's that guy behind Friday Night Tights, and he's 50 years old or whatever. I don't really care, right? I don't really care. As long as you're enjoying it and you want to talk about something, right? Anyways, yeah, I really just, I really just watched a lot of WWE videos, and I watched a lot of WWE YouTubers and that kind of thing, and as you can tell, man, with the amount of rambling and the amount of things I'm able to remember about this, that WWE will definitely go down as one of my longest phases. Where most of my phases, you know, they usually last about 2 or 3 years, and that's it, and stuff like that. You know, my anime phase, for example, that was 2020. I got into that, and we're in 2022, so that's been at least 2 years as well. But I mean, that may be even longer. Thing is with that though, I don't watch it as often. Whereas with WWE, right, I don't watch WWE anymore. This is a phase that I've completely lost hope in, and I don't tend to go back on it and stuff like that. But even despite that, right, I do remember watching the Undertaker Joe Rogan interview, where Joe Rogan talked to Undertaker on his podcast, and he was talking to him about the WWE life and how WWE impacted his life and that kind of thing. And he was just on his show talking about what WWE meant to him and stuff like that. But I wasn't there like, oh my god, wrestlers on the WWE, oh my god, do. No, the WWE, I've given up on that. I have given up on WWE, And yeah, so yeah, I guess I don't really know what else to say, because this is a phase that I was so into that now that I've not really been that into it, I just don't remember a lot other things to talk about necessarily. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found this interesting, that I yet again cannot for the life of me run out of ideas with this podcast, because I've just talked about so many things for the past 7 months right now, because yeah, it kind of feels like 7 months already. But yeah, that's besides the point there. So yeah, you can't see me. You can't see me, right? You won't be able to see me when this goes on Spotify, because you'll just be hearing my voice. You can't see me. My time is now. My name is John Cena. Oh yeah, there was actually that point where John Cena. I know I said I was getting in the episode, but that point where there was this thing with John Cena, right? And there was that there was like, they were in the like, you know how the WWE people go down that ramp, and then but there was but then John Cena had all these people who were actually next to him, and they looked like him, and there were these things, Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, I'm gonna end this episode. Alright, bye. Hope you enjoyed. Bye. Hope you do.